Brenda?
We're ready.
All right, welcome to our coaching chat Zoom. We are in part 5 of our 7-part series on how to sell more by selling less. And I just love the title of this book, and I am loving these secrets. 20 years in this business, and I can't wait to read the next chapter because I feel like I'm learning something new every single week. So thanks for allowing me to learn on you guys. So today's tip number or secret number 5 is switch from, and we've all heard that saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. We're going to switch it from a picture is worth 1,000 words to a story is worth 1,000 pictures. So think about that. Are we able to tell a story in a way that will conjure up pictures in someone's mind of what we're trying to communicate with them? And that is a powerful thing if we learn how to do that. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to go through a few points that if we utilize these 4 tips when communicating Juice Plus, when communicating what we do in regard to influencing people on their health journey, if we can use these 4 tips, we're going to see some very positive results by selling more, by selling less. Okay, so we're going to dive in. Number 1 is when we're having these conversations with people, this chapter in the book talks about if we use similarities in our conversation. So what I mean by similarities is, and here's an example. If I'm talking to a young mom, I will go back to my young mom days when I was sharing Juice Plus, and I would say something like this. When I was a young mom, Juice Plus brought me such peace of mind in knowing that my kids were getting the nutrition they needed, that it was like taking a big weight off my shoulders. And what I found back then is as I shared it with the other moms in the preschool, we all band together and said, what if we had everyone in this preschool on Juice Plus? Our kids aren't going to be getting sick and being knocked out of school. And as moms, we know just what a hassle it is. One is that our heart goes out to our kids when they're sick, but what a hassle, especially if you're a working mom and you got to take off. When we're talking to people, think about where are they in life and how can I share something similar to where they are to help them see the value of Juice Plus. And if you remember last week, we talked about social influencing. And here's another similarity that I may use is if I'm having an event at my house and I'm inviting everyone in my neighborhood, when I talk about, oh my gosh, you have to come to our event on Saturday, so-and-so, and start naming the people in the neighborhood who are coming to the event. This is a neighborhood event. You're not going to want to miss it. So what have I just done? I've found something that's similar to them. In that regard, it would be people who live in the neighborhood. And what I'm doing is putting a little social pressure on them to make sure they join us because they don't want to miss out, that FOMO. So when you're using that similarity, it's almost like you're casting that feeling of FOMO, fear of missing out, because they're part of that group. They want to be part of whatever's going on. So from a gummy standpoint, I would talk about, back then I would talk about the preschool. If I'm doing an event in the neighborhood, it would be about all the people in the neighborhood who are coming. So it's looking at that person and thinking what's similar in their sphere, in their realm, that they're not going to want to miss out on. Make sense? So think about people you've been interacting with, potential prospect customers, prospect partners. What's some similarities that you can talk to with them? Sometimes if I'm talking to people my age and I want to encourage them to be part of this amazing team, I'm going to talk about, wow, at this season of life, I've got time to pour into this business and build and grow it. And so that's what I'm going to kind of try to relate. You would love the people that you get to interact with. If I'm talking to someone who's young mom, then I start thinking about people on our team. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe. And I might talk about Caitlin Cobb or, some of the other young moms on our team. So I'm bringing that similarity into my conversation. So think about maybe what you're doing already. You might already be doing this, but you haven't thought of it in that regard. So think about, because I may call on you, how you have that similarity conversation with people to pull them into this community or into the Juice Plus world and them purchasing Juice Plus themselves. All right, number 2, and now when we're talking, also use analogies and metaphors. So analogies are comparisons. Metaphors are the example of a comparison. So here would be a metaphor. And I might drop this in a conversation. Man, for me, taking Juice Plus is like hitting the simple button, that big red simple button. You just hit the simple button, and what a great way. I've heard people say it's like eating Jetson food, so what we're trying, if I'm trying to communicate Juice Plus is a simple solution to a difficult problem we have in America today, and that's getting as much whole food in our body as possible. So what's some metaphors that you use? Because we're going to share, because we want more than one. We want to have these things rolling in our head that as we're having a conversation, they just come out. They just come bouncing out. That's the value of being on these calls every week, is the verbiage that in the knowledge that we pick up from each other, as well as whatever we're studying. So what metaphors do you use? Think about it. They're going to be unique to you, I bet, because of your own personal story. So that rolls us into that next category, your story. And you want to have a bunch of stories, because we're going to be talking to different people. Different people are going to be having different issues that we need to tell a story so that they can relate to. And sometimes if I'm trying to drive home that Juice Plus is whole food, it's not a vitamin supplement, it's nothing that's going to harm anybody. It is going to produce amazing things because it is whole food. And so I'll tell the story of my daughter, like climbing up the cabinets, back then it was a jar of gummies out, literally eating probably a month's worth of gummies. Now, if that would have been a vitamin, a Flintstone vitamin, any kind of synthetic vitamins, where would I have gone? I would have thrown her in the car and rushed off to our children's hospital. And so to help people understand how beautiful pregnant women can eat Juice Plus. Our kids could eat the whole bag of Juice Plus and it's going to do nothing but be good for them. So that's telling that story of my daughter. You're not going to forget that story now. Think about stories of the people on here that we hear that we can turn around and share. I remember Jelaine, you and your husband's story from the cancer video. I'm not going to forget that. You guys had that was an excellent, excellent call. And we want to be personally constant. If you're not part of the Recordings Facebook group, you've got to make sure. I just saw that Candace Corson posted something new on there today. Wow, what a wealth of information for us to tap into, because what we're doing is we're building the stories we can share with people, and stories are incredibly powerful. Let me go back to, there was a line I wanted to read for each one of these points. So similarity, let me go back and backtrack a minute. What I wanted to say is, so when you think of similarities, and here's their example, 5 other people on your block purchased a window. So that's a little bit of that social influencing going on there. So that was the thought, the picture, mental picture when you're talking about similarities. Then under analogies and metaphors, he talks about a metaphor is a way of comparing two unrelated things to make your point more vivid. So how do I, that big red button has nothing to do with Juice Plus, but I guarantee you, because I've told you that metaphor, you won't forget that. You've probably already seen it, so you haven't forgot it. So that's with metaphors. When it comes to a story, here's what he said about a story. There's a fine line between engaging a customer with an interesting relative story and then turning them off by simply talking about yourself with no relevance whatsoever. So that's a fine line when it comes to telling our story. We've got to get good about we need to develop several stories of our own self, as well as our customers and our friends, so that depending on who we're talking to, we've got stories to share that really relates with them, so that we're not just babbling on, but we're really sharing a story they're not going to forget because it touches a nerve or a feeling for them. And that's the value of storytelling. But the last point here is the one that, here's what I want to read, the little blip about being able to use pictures within our conversation. And it says here, stories alone are powerful enough. So what we're doing with stories are we're trying to evoke emotion. And that's why it's got to be personal to that person, and how we need to have asked questions to know what story to share with them. But here's what it says. Stories alone are powerful enough because you've evoked emotion. However, stories told with pictures are the mothership. So you think about it, if someone's telling a story and the story is so powerful that you're getting a picture in your mind, you are not going to forget what they're going to say. And that's where we get the value of social media, is to be able to post a picture that will drive home our story, but it's done with one picture. A story is worth 1,000 pictures. And Caitlin Cobb couldn't be on the call today. At least I don't think. She said she wasn't going to be able to. She had some family things going on. But Brenda and I were talking about this earlier. She is excellent about posting a picture, and then just one little liner or so in that picture you don't forget. And there was a picture of her talking about, wasn't it, Brenda, about not brushing her teeth, but yet her kids were getting the nutrition they needed because they got their Juice Plus gummies. I have that picture of her in my mind.
Yeah.
Brenda, were you going to say
exactly.
That,
That's exactly what she said. And you just stuck with you. She's just looking in the camera and saying, but I don't have to worry about my kids because they've just had 30 fruits and vegetables. So powerful.
So that picture of her, I've got that visual image of her. What about, one of the things I like to use is when people say, yeah, we eat healthy, I tell a story and I see this visual picture in my own mind. Before we had Juice Plus and we were trying to juice, of literally setting 2 green drinks down in front of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and seeing the look on their face like, Mommy, are you kidding me? I have to actually drink this? I will never forget the picture of their faces and me trying to make that happen. So that's something that I share with people to help them realize, back to the simple button with Juice Plus. But when I gave them Juice Plus, man, my kids would gobble up those gummies. And now, even as little kids, they would swallow a capsule, not to have to drink that green drink that I used to make for them. Okay, so I'm going to take 1 second right now, and I'm going to share you what's called Best Buds. It's a 1-minute video. And I'm going to stop sharing right now. I'm not a beer drinker. But I'm telling you what, this almost makes me want to go get a Budweiser beer. Okay, this video was played. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up here. I know I've got it saved somewhere. This video was played at the 2015 Super Bowl. And I want you to think about this. All that said, there's no words about Budweiser other than best buds. All right, are you ready to watch this? Man, I swear I think I had to wipe a tear away. So if we're talking about a picture being worth 1,000 words or 1,000 pictures.
When I wake up, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. And when I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. Just to be to fall down at your door.
Best buds. Will you guys, I will never forget. Oops, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Let me stop it. Oh no, it's one of those times now I can't find where it went.
When I wake up, I know.
Okay, I'm just, oops.
Be the man who wakes up next to you.
You guys know where it just went? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I know I'm gonna be.
Elaine, look at your tabs on your Safari, and then there will be like a little microphone, like a little speaker.
Jane says she's wiping tears.
I'm serious. That really literally made, okay, I'm sorry, you guys.
And whatever you did the first time worked.
Yeah.
It is nowhere on my computer. Okay, well, it ended. Sorry, guys. Now it lost its impact. But you guys are not going to forget that. Will you forget that? It says nothing about Budweiser except best buds. But it's a visual that's in our minds. So what if we got good at sharing our story and creating a visual picture for them? Like if I look at some of you guys, pictures will come into my mind of you and your stories. And so we want to get good when it comes to that last point of using pictures when we communicate what we want to share with people. So here's what I want to do. I want to ask a couple people to, if you think about our 4 areas, let me get back to them. Let me pull this up real quick. So similarities. So I want to pull from you guys. So think about this. When you're sharing Juice Plus, similarities, metaphors, stories, and pictures. And what I'd love to do is hear from a couple of you guys. Now I can't even find you guys. What in the world is happening?
We're here.
Good grief. It's like my computer is, Okay, so.
Well, Elaine, this is Sandy.
Yeah, take off and I'll try to find you guys.
I was just going to talk about how the pictures made a big difference when it comes to social media. I can go on Facebook and put 100 different posts on there, maybe about Juice Plus or drinking water or exercise, and I might get 2 or 3 likes. And then I'll post a picture of my grandbabies. Like I posted a picture of Ava, the 19-month-old, eating her Juice Plus. And then I posted another little video of when I took the bag away from her, how she pitched a fit and cried and wanted the other bag. And I will get like 100 likes on, with the pictures of the grandbabies, either Jackson or Ava. And I don't know, it just lights up people's hearts, or and just makes them, an actual picture right there does make a difference. And I think about, maybe I need to put, pictures of me maybe working out or doing something like that too. And I'm just like, I don't do it. It's easier to do. The grandbabies are a lot cuter and a lot more fun than me. But I want to put more on social media, even with me, even though I don't like put my pictures on there, because I think it just attracts attention when you have an actual picture, to look at on there versus just a post.
Well said, Sandy. And it's not, because it doesn't come across as advertising. It comes across as, this is me, this is life. And I agree 100%. When you're posting like your grandbabies, or like you said, I'm like you, I'm not a big poster, but at the same time, people know you. And that's what people resonate with versus anything that looks beautiful and great. It's not, truth doesn't come across. Whereas when you're posting like that, or the same is true as you're talking to someone, bringing up a picture in their mind. Good point. Let me ask somebody out. Aaron, how about thoughts on either similarities, metaphors, story, or pictures? Those are the ways we are able to grab people.
Yeah, I think it's been fun. Can I just talk about babies?
Absolutely.
And my experience with babies and moms as a doula for the last 15 years. It's been really fun to just say, man, I have this amazing tool that's the most simple tool, but the most effective that you'll have during your pregnancy. And I've seen like a greater divide between my clients that decide to take this tool and those that don't. And when I see my clients that take Juice Plus throughout their pregnancy, one of the most fun things is amazing pregnancy, great delivery, but after the delivery, the placentas are huge and so healthy, but the umbilical cords are like this big, you guys, like fat, juicy. And it's such a huge picture of nutrition that has been given to that baby. And they're so big. I've had other doctors call in other doctors to say, you got to take a look at this. It's amazing. And it's been incredible too with some of my clients that have had Crohn's disease. And literally I had a friend, she calls me crying and I'm like, what's the matter? She goes, I just had my prenatal visit and my doctor said that my placenta from the ultrasound looks like the healthiest placenta he's seen. And I'm not supposed to be able to feed that placenta because I have a hard time managing or like absorbing nutrition into my body, which is part of what Crohn's does. So just like the picture of this healthy placenta. And the other end is I've been in several births now that I have young moms, 25, like should be incredible health. They have had measly shriveled placentas and umbilical cords that look like you could break them and look like completely no nutrition. Those that and they have been, some of my clients have decided not to take Juice Plus. So it's fun to be able to see that kind of picture of nutrition and how it impacts the body in amazing ways.
Wow.
Wow. Am I the only one with goosebumps?
No.
That is a story I've not heard. I mean, I've heard, but I've never heard anyone go into depth. I can visualize that, and who can turn around and share that? We all have an incredible story now to share. That was powerful, Aaron. Okay, Who else? Jennifer, you got anything to share with us? I'm gonna start picking on people. Maybe she stepped away. Okay, good.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how visual it gets or whatever, how good I'll be at sharing it, but my personal story that makes me think of right now is more personal for my son. My son, just this week, my son, for ever since he was born, has suffered severely, chronically with allergies. And I'm talking to the point up to 4 years ago, he was on 4 medications. He did a neti pot and the Navage, if you know what that is, like every single day. I mean, we're talking everything to help him clear his nasal passages and get rid of any allergens. We did everything. And then just this week, he actually had a flare up because of different things that are happening, but it just reminded me of what my baby has suffered with his whole life. And since Juice Plus, that has not been happening. And I'm talking about snorting and constant blowing his nose and snoring at night, which affects his attention. It gave him attention deficit and unable to breathe, sleep apnea, just one thing after another. And my son, to see all those things sit on the cabinet in the bathroom now, the Navage just sitting there, and the neti pot dry, and all of these little salt tablets that go in the machine, because we had so many of them and used it so often that now they've just sat there for years. And that, to me, I was reminded of it this week whenever he started getting nasally just for a little bit, which happens maybe once a year. But we cleaned out the cabinet, and he's like, Mom, I'm doubling up on my Juice Plus, and I never have to tell him anything, but just hearing that sound once this week was such a reminder to me. I mean, my visual for that would not be very pretty at all, but just the joy. It's like that mom joy that I don't have to hear that my baby is okay. And those things can just sit on the shelf and and rot for all I care, but just so exciting. I'm so happy for him.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing. And I don't know about you, but the minute she said, and I probably don't have exact words, but to watch my baby suffer, man, that's what did it. So think about those 4 areas. And thank you, Aaron and Sandy and Jennifer. And you know what, Brenda, I also have to say, if I think about these 4 areas of similarities, metaphors, stories, and then lastly, creating the picture. And I told this to Brenda. I don't know if you remembered what was said, but I remember, and it's good just like hearing Jennifer talk, hearing Sandy talk, hearing Aaron talk. It's really good to hear from each other, because it just helps us develop more and more stories. But I remember, and I'll never forget, I said this to Brenda, and I don't know what you come up with, but I said, can you share something today? Because I was up there to hear Dr. Du Bois. I remember it was the first time I met Karen Farrell. It was a big event in Indiana. And after everyone had gone home, Brenda and I were cleaning up, and some guy who was working there, Brenda started telling him about Juice Plus. And as I heard Brenda talk, I was like, dang, you're good. I was like, hold on a minute. Let me go get a pencil and paper. We've worked together for 15 years, and I hadn't heard some of this stuff she was saying. I'm like, I don't know where you got this, but let me get a pencil and paper and write down what you're saying. We all have great things that we share, that we've developed over the years as we talk to people. And so thinking through these categories and really being able to recall them when we're talking to people is going to make us just all the better from moving from selling less. Let's see, selling more by selling less, because we're shifting from that selling mode, feeling that, saying that, to truly telling stories, using similarities, metaphors, and pictures. Go ahead, take it away, Brenda. What do you got for us?
I wish I knew what I had said back then, but it amazes me. But I was telling you this morning, I was thinking about, I got a call from, well, was on a call with a customer who's been a customer for a long time. And her son, we taught together and he was there, and I was always loving on him. And she said, I remember when he very first started on Juice Plus calling you. And I said, I remember that too. He started on Juice Plus like in October. He was like 3 years old. And she called me during Christmas break, which was really unusual. I mean, we were friends, but we weren't those kind of friends. And she said, I just have to tell you what happened. And I was like, tell me. And she said that, because I wasn't sure where it was going. And she said that they were at a big, at Christmas, when it's all sugar, everything. And they were at a big family dinner, and there was every kind of sugar around. And her 3-year-old, after being on Juice Plus for 2 months, went past everything and went to the relish tray and stood there and ate fruits and vegetables. And everybody was just like, they just couldn't believe it. And I was like, and he, and it's made the biggest difference in him, not just in terms of his diet, but in terms of he was actually borderline autistic, and he's doing great. He's actually going into high school now.
Wow.
Quite a while ago. But, and I was also thinking in terms of a metaphor, one of the first things I say to people is, there's a reason God started us in a garden. He intended for food to not just be fuel, but medicine. And our bodies know what to do with that. And, none of us are getting enough fruits and vegetables. That's across the board. And I've never had anybody disagree with me on that part. And, I'm sure a lot of you remember that at our last conference that we got to go to in Austin, I went to that conference in a wheelchair. Both of my parents have really severe arthritis. My dad had back surgery. My mother had spinal stenosis. And unfortunately, I inherited a lot of that. But so I don't know if you know this, but I've had 2 major back surgeries within a year. And within a year apart. It's been 2 years now. And I'm literally fused from the middle of like my bra line all the way down. But but anyway, so when the first surgery went really great, and he said at 1 month, I was 4 to 6 months ahead of where I should have been in terms of healing. And at 2 months, he literally released me. He said, you're healed. And so, but the next year, my mother fell, which was really traumatic. And then I was moving and doing all kinds of stuff. And so I messed my back up. And that was when I went to conference in a wheelchair. And the problem was that I had already paid for a trip to the Holy Lands for a year ago, that we were getting ready to go. And I literally couldn't walk. I couldn't stand and I couldn't walk. And so I went into him and I was just sobbing. And he said, well, Brenda, you were my star patient last year. He literally moved a clinic day, completely moved it. We came home from the conference on Saturday night at midnight. At 6 o'clock Monday morning, I was in the operating room. He did the surgery on me. 3 weeks later, to the day, I flew to the Holy Land. From the minute I got on, and I actually was still using ice packs on my back, but the people, they were on these other airlines and they kept giving them to me, but they had a hole in them, so my pants were constantly wet. But once we stepped off the plane onto the Holy Land, I never had 1 minute's pain. 3 weeks later, after major back surgery, I walked miles every single day, and it really, I feel great. I mean, people will even say to me, I've never known anybody else, which you said to me, that had back surgery and was okay. My dad was never the same. So, and it's this doctor is he's very pro Juice Plus. So it's just amazing, what we have to offer. The other thing really quickly, this weekend, you guys know I'm old, so it's not a big secret, but right now is a big push that's Medicare sign up. And so I didn't know what to do about that. And I talked to a business guy in Florida yesterday, and I was telling him about, he was asking me about my insurance and everything. And he's like, what do you mean you have So I was just telling about just as a national marketing director, what our company offers. He said, I've been doing this for 27 years. I've never heard of anything like that. And he actually emailed me afterwards, sent me a text saying, I really want to know more about your company. He said, because of those 2 surgeries, corporate has paid out so much money for me as an independent contractor. And my part was literally 0.5% of what they've spent on me. Yeah, it's crazy. It was just amazing. So we have a lot to offer.
Well, and I think just drawing our attention to this point of the pictures and the stories, that instead of just telling people about Juice Plus, we are telling stories about Juice Plus, stories about Juice Plus, the benefits of Juice Plus business, the benefits of Juice Plus product, our stories of our customers. Let's get good. I mean, this gets me fired up thinking, who am I calling? And this is going to lead us right into the planning. If you want to cut us off, Brenda, we'll start the planning. But who are we really?